What if the strongest person in the room is the one who barely speaks? Not the loudest, not the most aggressive, not the one demanding attention, but the one quietly fighting battles no one else can see. That is the story of Hinata Hyuga in Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. Because her journey isn't about overwhelming power, it's about something far more rare: quiet strength, emotional resilience, and the courage to grow when everything inside you tells you to stay small. Hinata begins her story not as a prodigy, but as someone constantly reminded of her shortcomings. Born into the prestigious Hyuga clan, she was expected to lead, to embody strength, discipline, and excellence. But instead, she struggled. She hesitated. She doubted herself. And in a world that values visible strength, hesitation is often mistaken for weakness. From a young age, Hinata internalizes this judgment. She begins to see herself through the eyes of others, not as someone with potential, but as someone who falls short. This is where her psychological journey begins, because the most powerful limitations are not the ones placed on us externally. They are the ones we accept internally. Hinata doesn't just face criticism from her clan, she absorbs it. It becomes part of her identity. She starts to believe that she is not strong enough, not capable enough, not worthy of the position she was born into. And once a belief like that takes root, it begins to shape every action. She withdraws, she avoids confrontation, she chooses silence over expression. But here's the deeper truth: silence is not always weakness. Sometimes, it's a space where strength is forming. Hinata's admiration for Naruto Uzumaki becomes a turning point in her development. Naruto represents everything she is not, or at least everything she believes she is not. He is loud, unapologetic, persistent, and fearless in the face of rejection. Where Hinata retreats, Naruto pushes forward. Where she doubts, he declares. And yet what draws Hinata to Naruto is not just his strength, it's his refusal to give up on himself. Because deep down, Hinata doesn't lack strength. And Naruto becomes a mirror, reflecting the version of herself she has not yet fully embraced. Watching him struggle, fail, and still rise again begins to shift something inside her. It plants a seed. Maybe strength is not about being perfect. Maybe it's about continuing despite imperfection. One of the most defining aspects of Hinata's growth is her relationship with fear. Unlike many characters who overcome fear by becoming fearless, Hinata never loses her fear. Her heart still races, her voice still trembles, her doubts still whisper in the background. But what changes is her response. She begins to act anyway, and that is the essence of courage, not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward in spite of it. This evolution becomes clear during moments where Hinata is forced to confront her limitations directly. Whether it's during the Chunin exams or her encounters with opponents far stronger than herself, she begins to shift from avoidance to engagement. She stops running from challenges and starts facing them, even when the outcome is uncertain. And in doing so, she begins to rewrite her self-perception, not as someone who fails, but as someone who tries. Her relationship with Neji Hyuga is especially significant in this journey. Neji represents the rigid belief in fate, in predetermined roles, in limitations that cannot be broken. And for a long time, Hinata exists within that same system. But unlike Neji, she doesn't fully accept it. Even when she is overwhelmed, even when she loses, there is a quiet defiance within her, a refusal to completely surrender to the idea that she cannot change. This quiet defiance is what makes Hinata unique. She doesn't challenge the system with loud rebellion. She challenges it with persistence, with consistency, with the simple but powerful act of continuing to grow, even when no one expects her to. And over time, that consistency becomes strength. Perhaps the most powerful moment in Hinata's story comes during the pain arc. When Naruto Uzumaki is overwhelmed, pushed beyond his limits, Hinata steps forward. Not because she believes she can win, not because she is stronger, but because she refuses to stand by and do nothing. In that moment, her fear is at its peak, but so is her courage. She speaks, she acts, she stands. And that moment is not about victory, it's about transformation. Because the same person who once avoided confrontation now willingly faces it, even against impossible odds. That is growth. That is emotional evolution. That is the result of someone who has slowly, patiently rebuilt their sense of self from the inside out. Hinata's strength is not explosive, it's cumulative. It builds over time, through small decisions, repeated effort, and the willingness to keep going when progress feels invisible. And that kind of strength is often overlooked in a world that celebrates instant results and dramatic change. But in reality, it is one of the most sustainable forms of growth. There's also a deeper emotional intelligence in Hinata's character that deserves attention. She is empathetic, observant, and deeply aware of others. And while these traits are often dismissed as softness, they are actually forms of strength. Because understanding others, connecting emotionally, and maintaining compassion in a harsh world requires resilience. It requires stability. It requires inner strength. Hinata teaches us that growth does not always look loud or dramatic. Sometimes, it looks like showing up when you're afraid, speaking when your voice shakes, trying again after failure, believing in yourself just a little more than you did yesterday. And over time, those small shifts create massive transformation. Her journey also challenges a common misconception, that strength must look a certain way, that it must be dominant, aggressive, or visible. Hinata proves that strength can be quiet, that it can exist beneath the surface, that it can grow slowly, patiently, and still become powerful enough to change your life. By the time we see Hinata later in the series, she is no longer the same person who once hid in the background. She still carries her gentle nature, but now it is supported by confidence, by experience, by a stronger sense of identity. She no longer defines herself by her past limitations. She defines herself by her growth. And that is the true essence of her story. Not becoming someone else, but becoming more of who she always had the potential to be. Because at the end of the day, Hinata's journey is not just about strength, it's about self-acceptance. It's about recognizing that growth is possible, even when it feels slow, even when it feels invisible, even when no one else sees it yet. And maybe that's the most powerful lesson she offers. You don't have to be loud to be strong. You don't have to be fearless to be brave. You just have to keep going, quietly, consistently, until the person you once doubted becomes the person you are.